The negotiations are looking positive for Tavares and Knies, while Marner looks to be headed to free agency. Plus, it's draft night. We'll tell you who the top players are in the draft and what names could be involved as the trade bait board runs wild. You're listening to the Locked On at Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On at Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's show brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. It is the NHL Draft tonight. It's no longer the eve. It is NHL Draft night, and so much expected on today's date. Lots of trades could happen. We'll see draft picks be selected and maybe even some extensions potentially announced. Sounds like things are moving in the right direction for a couple of the Maple Leafs players who are waiting on deals to be made. What's happening, Dave? How you feeling on draft day?
Feeling pretty good. Obviously, like everybody, wondering what we're in store for. There's been a lot of chatter. I don't know if you followed that NHL rumor report account where they kind of put
NHL Watcher or whatever it is on Twitter.
Yeah. It's funny just to hear all the rumors that are going on. And I'm like, when are we going to start seeing some of those rumors come true? Because, the draft is here. And there's only a few days till free agency. Like,
is
there ain't a lot of time for these moves to get done.
Are there a couple particular moves or players that is piquing your interest, and could any of them possibly be Leaf related?
Well, obviously the big one here for the Leafs, considering the amount of time that's left, is John Tavares.
Yeah,
because you only got a couple days signed before he's eligible to go to free agency, and then do the Leafs actually convince Marner to let him trade the rights? Right? Can we see them try to get something, even if it's a little something, for Marner?
Yeah, it really doesn't feel like that's going to be an option. Like, I know Darren Dreger was on 1050, and I know that he was on Insider Trading a couple days ago talking about how it seemed as though the Marner camp is willing to drag this out a little bit. He is expected to go to market, and we did actually hear from Brad Treliving today, the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he did speak on where things stand with the Leafs and Mitch Marner. And essentially he said, unless there's significant change, he's going to hit the market. That's a quote from Brad Treliving himself. So it doesn't sound like anything's coming down the pike here for Marner to come back to Toronto. But it doesn't sound also like he's willing to help the Maple Leafs, and it doesn't appear like his rights will also be up for grabs for negotiation either. Because again, Marner still technically has a no trade clause, so he could decide to decline any trade, even if it's for his rights, decline any trade he wants, and just wait it out for July 1st so he can get a full bidding war for his services. So I wouldn't be holding my breath on any Marner rights trades to come down at any point here.
Yeah, I just feel like Marner's gone to this point to get the free market to come and laud over him, right? Google, hey, Mitch, come over here. He's not going to want to be like, yeah, just trade my rights to these guys because this is where I'm going to go. Part of me still thinks he wants a bit of that, pitch me what you like. Feels like he wants a team to really pitch the idea of going there, right? He wants that kind of that treatment. But at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a team already that feels like they have a good chance, and maybe they try to push the Leafs into seeing if they can do something. But yeah, Mitch held all the cards.
Mitch does hold all the cards. Now, the only benefit a team has, and some people may be saying, well, if he's going to go and sign with a team on free agency, like why bother? Like it's heavily rumored that the Golden Knights are very interested in Mitch Marner, and there's mutual interest. It sounds like, and they are the betting favorite over on FanDuel to land Mitch Marner in free agency. So some may be saying, why would Vegas give up any amount of any pick, whether it's a third, fourth, second, whatever it may be, a lower level prospect for Marner's rights if he's likely to just sign there on July 1st anyway? They don't have to give anything up. And the answer is if they make the trade for Marner ahead of noon Eastern on July 1st, they can sign him to an 8-year deal. Once that actually, I think it's midnight, if I'm not mistaken.
It's midnight.
Yeah, it's midnight on June 30th that deal has to be signed for the 8-year term. Once midnight hits on June 30th and the calendar switches to July 1, the player is no longer able to sign an 8-year extension. So what it would allow that team to do, whoever acquired his rights, it would allow them to get that 8th year, and maybe that's the kicker that gets Marner signed, and maybe that lengthens the deal, and potentially it could take $500,000 off of the AAV, or $250,000 off the AAV by getting an 8-year deal as opposed to a 7-year deal. Just get that total dollar amount up and stretched out over 8 years as opposed to 7. So there is some benefit to it. Getting that 8th year as opposed to that 7th. So that would be the reasoning for a team wanting to do that. But again, it's Mitch holds the cards. If he doesn't want that and he's okay with signing for 7 years, we heard that he's okay signing for as little as 2 years to really cash in once the cap goes up to $113 million a couple of years from now. He might cash in again in free agency, is what was being reported a few days ago. So I'm not anticipating him at all waiving. He wants that treatment, like you said. He wants to go to market, go to free agency, and assess his options. And we may not hear of a Mitch Marner deal on July 1st, July 2nd. This may kind of drag into, the first week or so of July. That was what was reported a week ago, though, at the very least. And that's kind of the latest on Marner. So again, if you missed it, the news of the day, Brad Treliving spoke, and he said this, quote, unless there's significant change, he's going to hit the market. So for all those who wanted to see Mitch return to Toronto, very unlikely that it happens unless he comes back after assessing all his other options elsewhere. It's the only way, but he is going to hit the market. And then Treliving the Leafs, if they want to bring him back, they're going to have to negotiate with 31 other franchises for his services. So that's the latest on Mitch Marner. The latest on John Tavares, Dave, much more positive.
Yeah, Brad Treliving kind of makes it seem like there's just there's like one or two little hurdles that the two sides have to get to. Probably the thing is term, and then once you get the term done, you get the salary done. So it seems like
it's all that. Term and money. Yeah, term and money. Those are the two hiccups.
Two things.
It's like, just those two things. Yeah, that's all that matters. Here's what I understand. If everything's going positively, and he said that both sides have shared and expressed a shared outcome where both sides want to stick with each other and remain. He wants to stay a Leaf, and the Maple Leafs want to bring him back. Why is this taking so long? Like, how can they not just figure this out so that this is no longer a question mark on their roster? Right now, their second line center role is blank, right? Just fill it in with Tavares' name, get the number, get the term done, get a contract situated, and then you can move on to your other needs. I don't understand if they want to bring him back. Tavares wants to come back. How hard could it really be to figure out that number, that sweet spot that works for both sides? I'm flabbergasted that we've gone this far into the offseason and we still have not figured this out.
Yeah, I mean, for Treliving basically said we are moving hopefully in a direction to bring it to a closure. My hope, until proven otherwise, is that we will have a good outcome here.
Get it done. Just get it done. What are we doing?
Like, sometimes it just feels like one side just needs to bend a little bit. And maybe that's what it is. Leafs maybe don't want to feel like that they're giving everything. that maybe that John is hoping to get. But I don't feel that that's really the case. We already know that salary's coming down significantly from what he was making before.
What would be considered a win for Toronto if he signs something with a 5 in it? Is that a win for Toronto or a win for
With the
Tavares?
way that free agency has looked and with the way that recent contracts have looked,
Mhm.
I'd say a 5 is a win.
So
Like
something
anything
that
with a
starts
5.
with a 5, and it starts with anything sub 6 million AAV on a multi-term deal
Yeah.
will be considered a Leafs win, right? At this point, anything above that, I guess you could consider maybe a Tavares win. So let's just get that sweet spot, high fives, get it done, and get it done on a 5-year deal. If it means getting to 6 years to really get that, like if he wants 25 million bucks, or $30 million or something like that, stretched out over 6 years, right? 25 million over 6 years. Like that's let's just make that happen. Right.
Mhm.
Like that. I don't understand why it's taken so long to get this deal done, but sounds as though things are going in the right direction and it's likely to get done by July 1st. Doesn't sound like they want Tavares to hit the open market because they're not too keen on bringing back Mitch Marner, so they don't care to get outbid by other teams in the Marner sweepstakes. They do not want Tavares to find out what's out there because I bet you there's plenty more teams willing to give him plenty more money and a couple more zeros on a contract. So definitely want to get that thing wrapped up and done before July 1st. And at least we know that things are moving in a positive direction. As for Matthew Knies, kind of same vein as Tavares, although Treliving did say that there's not the same deadline, so they're not necessarily as keen as needing to get it done by July 1st because they still will have his rights, but did say that they want to make sure that they're protected. And obviously that was in a thought process of the team or a team possibly offer shooting Matthew Knies at some point, and I'm sure they're kind of thinking about that scenario as well. So they'd like to get something done between now and July 1st, but if it's not completed and over the finish line, doesn't sound like it's the biggest deal because they also feel like they'll be okay regardless if
Yeah.
the offer sheet kind of rolls through. But positive vibes on the Knies front as well, it sounds like.
Yeah, and we talked about it. Yes, I feel like the Paterka deal kind of helped the Leafs in a way, provide a bit of a
Yep.
framework
Yep. Now
to get that
Paterka's
done.
if you're going shorter term, like if Knies wants a 4 or 5 year deal, yeah, makes sense. 7.5, 7, 7. Like that was a 5-year deal, right? Paterka's extension.
It was a 5-year deal, yeah.
Yeah, 5 years, 7, 7, bang. That's what you want. You want 5 years, that's what you're getting, 7, 7. If you want 6 years, okay, we'll give you, 8 million. If you'll sign for 7, maybe we'll go up to 8.25, 8 years, 8.5. That's kind of where you're starting at. But anywhere from like that's kind of your number, right? From 7, 7 to 8.5. That's where that number is going to come in based on the amount of years and term he gets. I'm sure the more UFA years they buy, the more expensive it's going to be, obviously. But I think that that deal last night, as you mentioned, yeah, it probably does make things a little bit easier for both sides to stomach, a number that makes sense for both parties.
Yeah, and that's kind of Treliving didn't seem to have a lot of concern when it came to those two deals, as
No.
maybe was led to believe a few days ago, even last week. Like it feels like things are trending in the right direction, and I think with the Marner stuff, I think that's made the Leafs realize, okay, other things have now become more of a priority. Go and get those done.
Yeah. So we'll see. Again, just it's draft night, so potentially we could see something happen on draft day. If not, well, the deadline is set for Monday night on these players as well. So certainly, hopefully, something gets announced over the weekend. There is one more player that we've talked about, an RFA, who does need a qualifying offer by Monday night or Monday at 5 p.m. Nick Robertson. He also spoke on Nick Robertson's future. kind of an interesting take. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the NHL draft, some top prospects, some top players who could be available on the trade market. Maybe Toronto finally gets involved, and some big news in the NHL. A CBA extension is close. We'll detail all of that and more next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in handy. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Price on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and a lower price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of the Locked On Network, making it easy to browse the app for upcoming and exciting MLB games. Maybe you're looking to go to a Jays game. Use the Gametime app to get yourself some tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Davind Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find the video form of the podcast on YouTube. Just hit subscribe and get new videos delivered to you daily. It's all Leafs all the time. And the Maple Leafs have 6 draft picks in tonight's NHL draft, none in the first round. They've got the very last pick in the second round, and then they have a third round pick, 2 fifths, a 6th, and a 7th. So nothing too high for the Maple Leafs. So, they won't be picking towards the top of the draft, anyone in the top 10 or really anyone in the first round either, unless they make some sort of move to move into the first round, move up in the draft. But doesn't sound like it's going to be a very busy draft for the Maple Leafs, at least in terms of picking players and top prospects.
Yeah, and with the draft, it's just kind of it's been different for the Leafs, right? Remember 10 years ago, we were all excited about picking, in the top 10.
They won the lottery.
Right? 3 years in a row, they had top 10 picks.
Yeah.
And then they went
Nylander, Marner, and then won the lottery, and they ended up with Austin Matthews.
Yeah. And then after that, we had Liljegren, Sandin.
Yeah.
And
then they traded away first round picks.
From basically almost Amirov, and then there was we don't have a first. Oh, we're gonna have to see what they do in the second round. Oh, another first gone. So we haven't the last time the Leafs picked in the first round was 5 years ago.
They took Ben Danford, didn't they? Danford?
Yeah, right. Technically,
and Cowan. Cowan was a first round pick too.
Okay, late first,
yes. They haven't had a lottery pick in a very long time.
They haven't had anything in the top 20 in a long time.
Right. They haven't picked a top prospect in quite some time, we could say, since Austin Matthews. Realistically, was the last prospect to get really jacked up about. So not expecting a full celebration for whoever they end up taking in with their picks over the course of the weekend. But you never know. Matthew Knies was a late second round pick. So you could always find and uncover talent anywhere in the draft, right? Braden Point, Jake Gensel, third round pick. So you never know. Once you're drafted, it's all up to you to develop the way that you're supposed to ultimately. So we'll see what they do with the 6 picks that they do have. It's interesting though, because I did hear Brad Treliving. He did speak today, as we were alluding to earlier. So did Mark Leach, the new director of scouting for the Toronto Maple Leafs, of amateur scouting. He's the new guy in charge when it comes to the NHL draft. And they both kind of said, it's more likely that they move down and acquire picks as opposed to move up in the draft. So if anything, it sounds as though they maybe like the depth of the draft more than they do, the top 50, I suppose. Like Mark Leach did mention that the top 15 was a pretty strong group, and then there's a bit of a drop off. And for that reason, I'm sure they realized we could probably move back and get some similar talented players, pick up some picks in next year's draft, maybe pick up another 4th, 5th, 6th round or whatever, and try and get throw as many darts at the board as possible. But yeah, it should be an interesting night for the Maple Leafs, or an interesting weekend rather.
Yeah, night one, probably not going to be seeing a lot going on, unless there's some moves from the Leafs. But I think you'll start to see, maybe they'll try to do some stuff. Get some extra picks, give the draft guys a little more options of what they can do, right? And try to fill the cupboards a little bit better rather than just taking what they got.
It'll be the first decentralized draft, which technically the COVID year was a decentralized draft as well, I guess. So it's not like it's the first one ever, but the first official decentralized draft.
Yeah.
We'll see how this one works out. I am curious. Treliving was asked about it. He did say it'll be a little weird not being able to walk around and, try and work the room, try and make some trades, get a feel. It's a time to talk to some free agents or agents rather, about free agents potentially, and won't really be able to do much of that. They do obviously have cell phones and they could still make their phone calls, but it's just going to be a little different that they're not going to be in person. So it should be kind of a different draft than usual. I'm curious if that's going to make things a little slower on the trade market, but if you listen to a lot of the insiders, whether it's, LeBron or it's Friedman or it's, Drager or CJ, everyone's expecting it could be a pretty busy trade day, not only on the floor, but leading up to it. There's a lot of guys out there that have been rumored to be on the trade block that could be dealt in the next 24 to 48 hours, Dave.
I mean, there's so many teams that are looking for clarity on guys too, right? A lot of RFAs. Like you got Dobson, you got Byram. Those are like two defense, right? Like you got.
By the way, did you hear the packages? Sarah Volley was tweeted the packages that apparently Buffalo turned down for Peterka. Like apparently the Wild offered Rossi plus Jordan Kyrou was on the table in talks for Peterka from St. Louis, and they said no, we're gonna take Michael Kesselring and Josh Doan. The trade looked bad when it was first announced, and now what we're hearing, what they decided to take as opposed to what else was on the board, man, that trade went from bad to worse real quick.
Like Buffalo's in a position where they need talent.
Yeah.
Go and get, like, if guys are offering you Marco Rossi, I understand, maybe it's a bit of a gamble, but you're getting better value from Marco Rossi than you are from Josh Doan, who's barely played a lot at the NHL level, and Michael Kesselring, who maybe is a top 4 pairing guy, but doesn't move the needle for what you're like. Buffalo needed someone that's going to help move the needle for them. Like Jordan Kyrou would have done that. Marco Rossi would have done that. I think they said maybe Noah Dobson.
Dobson could have potentially been available if they would have made a trade that could have been made. That I don't know. I don't know what the hell Buffalo's doing, but all these players that you mentioned still available, still are, kind of out there in trade talks. Bo Byram, one of them, Noah Dobson, Alex Tuck, Marco Rossi, Jordan Kyrou, Rasmus Anderson of the Calgary Flames is also available in trade talks, according to a lot of the insiders. And I'm taking a look at Frank Serval's trade bait board. He's got a boatload of names out here that are available. Erik Karlsson apparently might be available for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're kind of tearing it down. Brian Rust, another name. Ricard Raquel, also out of Pittsburgh. Martin Nakash, who's not willing to sign an extension in Colorado. potentially he could be on the move again. J-Rob, we've heard before. Dallas, could they possibly move on from him? And apparently teams are still calling on Elias Pettersson out of Vancouver if they want to go in a bit of a different direction after such a tumultuous year. So there's a lot of players that could be dealt over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours. And I'm curious if Toronto could get in on any of these players, because any one of them that I just mentioned, maybe not Erik Karlsson based on his contract and, the level of play he's at this point in his career. But any other player that I just mentioned, I think Toronto should be inquiring and seeing if they can get something done, because any of those players would make this Toronto team a much better squad moving forward.
Yeah, and it's just that's kind of been our thing. Like, it's like what's the holdup on getting these trades done? On like trying to, it always feels like there's something that some teams are waiting for, and I don't know what's what's the holdup on some of these things. I just don't understand.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know either. I guess teams are trying to hold out, unlike Buffalo, trying to get the best possible deal. So they're waiting for the draft floor, see if some deals, see if other teams are willing to add in that extra little sweetener. Just the closer it gets to the draft, and plenty of draft picks also available in the first round. Apparently available. Like there's a couple of picks in the top 10 that could be had for the right price. A couple other lottery picks that could be had. Montreal might be looking to move, a couple of their first round picks for one of these players that we just mentioned. So should be a lot of movement tonight. I'm excited to see kind of what ends up happening in the draft. Speaking of, why don't we come back, talk about some of the best players in the draft, the top prospects, the projected number one overall pick. And we got some NHL news to get to as well. A CBA extension is close. What changes could be coming to the NHL because of it? We'll get to that and more next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast.
Today's edition of Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. If you're somebody who is looking to just get everything done in one place, that is what I love about Monarch Money. Having everything you can check all in one place. You don't have to download multiple apps, check this account, check that account on another app. You can do it all on Monarch Money. And if you share your finances with someone, Monarch can help you stay on the same page. It's so much easier to set those financial goals together without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKDOWNNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKDOWNNHL for half off your first year.
The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Davind Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, all season long. The season might be done, but the Locked On Leafs podcast continues all off season, all summer long, taking you all the way through until training camp next year, where the 25-26 Maple Leafs will try and vie for the Stanley Cup, try and end that cup drought, and everything that happens over the course of the next couple of weeks here in Leafland will be with that goal in mind. So there's some CBA news. Actually, let's talk about the draft a little bit first. I just want to quickly talk about some of the top players that are available in this draft before we get to the CBA news. And of course, Toronto's not going to be anywhere near drafting any of these players, but just for those who are curious who the top guys are in this draft, the projected number one overall pick and the odds-on favorite on FanDuel to go number one to the New York Islanders is Matthew Schaefer of the Erie Otters. You may remember him from Team Canada at the World Junior Championship. Unfortunately got injured, and that team was not the same after Schaefer got hurt. So as a draft eligibility player to play that significant of a role, it makes sense for him to be the top prospect available in this year's draft. So the Islanders, it sounds as though Schaefer could be the apple of the eye there, which is another reason why Noah Dobson might be available, right? They're going to go in a different direction for a franchise defenseman. The another strong player who could be in the mix for number one overall, Michael Misa, also another player who could end up being taken in the top 2 picks here. So 2 good options for the Islanders, and the Sharks had the number 2 pick, correct? If I'm not mistaken, I think it's the Sharks.
Yes, Sharks are number 2.
Yes, so the Islanders at number 1, the Sharks at number 2. Probably going to be Schaefer, Misa, 1, 2, but there's always surprises. Always surprises. You never know what's going to happen at the NHL draft. So that's a couple things to note for the draft tonight. In terms of the CBA, new CBA extension is close, according to many insiders, and could be announced by today, at some point today, actually. Just a couple of hurdles to overcome. Probably sounds like more so some T crossing and I dotting by the sounds of it. But Dave, what are a couple of things that are different, that were kind of sticking points that could make things different for the coming years in the NHL calendar?
Big one here is the number of games being played in the regular season.
Yeah,
we're going not down, but up from 82 to 84 games.
How does that make you feel, Dave? How does that make you feel?
I hate it. The regular season is too long. We've said this for the longest time. And now the NHL is like, more games.
So they are cutting out preseason games to accommodate so that the schedule isn't necessarily any longer. So the thought process is they'll play a maximum of 3 preseason games to accommodate the 2 extra regular season games. So, I guess instead of playing 6 or 7 preseason and 82, that could be upwards of 90 games. Now it's only 87 games. So it's going to be less games, technically, but 2 more regular season games, which much higher gate revenue than preseason games. So don't kid yourself. This is the money-making venture. This is for the owners to get 2 more regular season gate dollars and everything else, not just gate, but just dollars in general, ad dollars, everything incorporated and tucked away into their jeans. So that's really what this is all about. I don't like it. You don't like it. A lot of people do not like it, but guess who does? The owners. And guess who make this decision? The owners.
It's just like when the NFL went from 16 to 17 games.
Yeah, it's like, why? I'll say that I didn't mind that because it's only 16 games. Like one extra, like 17 games still isn't a lot, but 82 games and you're gonna add it to 84. Like by game like 78, we're usually done. Like 76, we're usually done. Right? It's like, let's just get to the playoffs. Like, oh my goodness. But yeah, 84 game season upcoming, shorter preseason, longer regular season. But I think the timeline from the start to finish of the season will pretty well end up being very similar to where it's been recently. The one other thing that I think is quite notable, the playoff cap rule sounds like that could be coming in the new CBA.
Yeah, I didn't hear too much about that one. I still wonder if that's too much to ask in the next to have that into the next CBA. But I mean, I think it would help a lot with some of these teams. They're like, oh, we have an $8 million guy or $10 million guy not able to, or hurt, but maybe we can hold him off till playoffs, and you go and you add to your team, and now you're instead of being in what's the next cap? What's the next cap ceiling? Let's say 92 million. Now we can go and have a team that's worth over 100 million and playing in the playoffs. Like, they got to stop with that. There's no parity then. If this whole idea of the hard cap, hard cap goes out the window with that. So I don't hate it. They're also talking about how dropping the max length of contracts from 8 to 7, and so it'd be 8 to 7 if you're bringing your own guy back, 7 to 6 if you're adding a free agent. Which
I like that too.
I don't hate it. I think one thing when you see so especially in the NBA with these shorter term contracts, it makes for easier movement and guys moving around and even trades, because you're not worrying about long-term deals. This deal doesn't look very good when you look at the 6th, 7th, 8th year, right? How many times we hear GM say, "Oh, we're not worried about years 6 or 7 or 8 in these contracts."
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we just don't have them in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple other kind of cool things that are going to be in here. It sounds like there's going to be a full-time EBUG position with each organization. So it's no longer going to be some random guy who played beer league 10 years ago. It's just, that there's going to be a full-time EBUG position, apparently, that'll be assigned to each team. And here's one that I think is going to be interesting. We'll have to dive deeper into the new CBA once it officially gets announced. But apparently, signing bonuses are going to be capped at 60% moving forward in this new CBA. That could impact the Maple Leafs negatively, because signing bonuses have always kind of been their way to flex those financial muscles. Might not be able to do that if it's capped at 60%. So that's something to kind of watch that might potentially hurt the Maple Leafs moving forward, but probably will be better for a lot more teams here. And deferred salary also, something that sounds like that's no longer going to be a possibility. We have 2 players do deferred salary contracts, and now all of a sudden, I guess the Ohtani rule, we'll call it, potentially. Now all of a sudden, like, no, we're not going to allow this to happen. So
also a revenue sharing tweak to help some of the more middle class teams.
Sure.
Like, if you're a team, a top end team like the Leafs, the Rangers, like those teams. So not only are they going to take away the signing bonus advantage,
not
only
going to pay all these other teams.
Now you're going to have to help more of these other teams. Some of them who have the, quote unquote, no state tax advantage. Like, to me, man, I wonder how some of those teams feel when they sit at these meetings and hear these things being thrown out there.
I know. Crazy. Anyway, anything else you want to get for chess before we get out of here for the weekend? Should be a fun weekend. I always love the draft, and then we'll be back on Monday. We'll recap the draft, and I guess it'll pretty much also be time to, kind of zero in on what to do on July 1 and talk about the guys who are still available. Maybe we have some signings by Monday. Knies, Tavares, potentially Steven Lorentz, Max Pacioretty. What do the qualifying offers look like that are the deadline's coming up on Monday? So should be a busy weekend. So I'm excited to get back onto the pod Monday and see what we can cook up, see what the Leafs cook up over the weekend for us to talk about. But that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On at Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the draft. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.